That was a tough one. That's a tough loss. That's a very, very frustrating loss. That was a game where the Mets felt like they had it in their possession the entire time, even after they had a lot of lifeless at-bats after the WardyNYM leadoff home run, and yet after Luis Severino gives you the best outing you have seen yet, along with Jose Quintana yesterday, on the 2-year anniversary, the last time the Mets threw a no-hitter, it was, of course, there at Citi Field against the Philadelphia Phillies. Sevy took a no-hitter that we saw there into the 8th inning. Unfortunately, they were not able to get it done as a Dansby Swanson broken bat single, of course, is the first hit of the game, because of course it is. And then ultimately there, Edwin Diaz hangs one pitch after being squeezed by the ump horrendously that I have a lot to say about. That ultimately leads the Cubs to a victory over the Metropolitans here. To everyone first chiming in live and on replay, how you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy. You're back at it with the latest post-game segment here on WardyNYM, presented by BetUS, which is America's #1 sports book. A bit on them later in the show, and our amazing sponsor as well, and so we're MLB, as we have started a Mets ticket giveaway where you will have a chance, and we will be picking winners by the end of the week to, in fact, win Mets tickets for any games they want to go to this season. So make sure you guys chime in throughout the entire live show here on YouTube. Let me know your thoughts, but more than anything, spam those L's in the live chat right now. The people watching this on replay, put in the comments down below. The people watching this also on Twitter, hitting that like, that follow button, that retweet button. Thank you all so much, but know that I will only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube per usual, as I have a lot to say, a lot to break down from what was a Luis Severino masterclass of an outing. Unfortunately, the most Metsy and Jacob deGrom-esque way is wasted after another anemic offensive showing, where I know I'm going to get a little unhinged, a little ranty, and I apologize in advance. Earmuffs, kiddos. Sometimes profanity is said when I get a little hot-headed after a loss like this. A game that was very much not only within reach for this Mets team, but was very much in possession, as long as they were just keeping things on par with what they were doing and adding at least one insurance run. But that was too much to ask for this Mets team yet again. And if you look outside of the heroics from Mark Vientos yesterday, this offense has been unbelievably anemic. They have been anything but consistent. They're quite literally Jekyll and Hyde on a night-to-night basis. And at Citi Field, again, they continue to labor and they continue to show the bigger flaws that they have so far this season as a group that is all but in unison at the moment. A Francisco Lindor that is all but truly locked in the way that we hope he'd be. A Pete Alonso that we love, but of course didn't contribute all that much. And outside of WardyNYM, you got absolutely nothing. So there's a lot of guys that should be hanging their heads after a loss like this, and there's few that should be hanging them high. But the guys that should be hanging them high are Tomas Nido, Luis Severino, and WardyNYM. Nido, because he was the one helping game call today, was fantastic with his frame jobs against an ump that was squeezing him unbelievably. A Luis Severino that had, again, the best outing in Mets uniform yet, and looks like he is getting better with each passing start. And of course there, WardyNYM, who led the game off with a home run, and that was the only offensive contribution we would see from the club tonight. Frank, thank you so much for the $5 holla. I appreciate that. Joey Wendell, do not even get me started on Joey Wendell. We're going to get to Joey Wendell. Joey Wendell's lack of defensive competency is what began the unravelment of the Mets tonight. In simple terms. That 100% ties with that. And it's beyond frustrating. It's that paired with Jameson Taillon that carved up the Mets tonight. It's that paired with an umpire that had blatant strike calls right down the pipe. Clearly in the zone. Full ball in the effing zone that we're going to call a ball instead of a strike. Right before, of course, Edwin hangs his pitch to Christopher Morel. Morel hits the game-winning bomb, and that's why we're here frustrated having the discussion that we're having. Thank you so much for the donation. Frank says, the heart of the order has to do a better job on Tyler. Their hitting G is anemic 100%. Their hitting has been anemic. Today's yet another example of an anemic offense where this Mets team needs to be better. And the worst part of it all, the worst part after a loss like this, is that as you take a look at the slate for the remainder of the series, the Mets are facing fantastic pitching. You're facing Assad, and you're facing Shota Imanaga. These are not easy assignments, and you could barely hit a lick against a Jameson Taillon that is not known for the strikeouts, but just fantastic with commanding the zone, not inducing walks, and of course, inducing his fly and ground ball out. That is how you get the best out of Jameson Taillon, and the Mets had everything on a tee for him today, and the best way possible to benefit him and to hurt the Mets here. Diaz lost 10 miles per hour on the fastball. Ray, that's not true. Diaz was topping out 98 today, but I digress. Professional certified hater, thank you so much for your $2 donation today. This reminded me of a DeGrom masterclass. Oh, 100%. And we've discussed them plenty on the channel. Let's go back a couple of years. We have done many instances breaking down a Metsian loss going directly in hand because of the fact that they were getting no runs whatsoever. Just when you had fantastic pitching by your starter, that being the case here, and now Luis Severino, previously in a Jacob deGrom, there's no offense to back it whatsoever. So it doesn't matter who you're pitching. It doesn't matter how you're pitching. At the end of the day, you're still going to have an L because the offense is not there to back you up. And that is the most frustrating thing. The Mets have wasted so many solid starts this season. Again, the Mets haven't had a lot of dominant starts, but they've had some quality outings with guys, again, some of them going 6 innings where you can't even get them the win. Jose Quintana yesterday, it was great to get the win, but Jose Quintana didn't even get the win. It goes to Reed Garrett, obviously. I'm not complaining too much there, but you see the point I'm trying to make. It's just very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Hold on, everybody. Give me 1 second. Okay, everybody. How are we feeling, Mets fans? Let me know in the live chat. Everybody that's watching us live on a replay, continue to let me know your thoughts. We're about to break down the game together here on what's transpired innings 1 through 9. But truthfully, again, I already summarized a good portion of what happened. And furthermore, you know what? Let's just do that now, everybody. We'll get into the updates on the roster as a whole and everything. But this is going to be a quick hitter in regards to actually breaking down the ball game and what transpired here. But give me 1 second before I do that. Hold on, folks. Give me one moment here. We get this all set up. Okay, everybody, let's talk about this game and let's talk about this shit show. How did we get to the point that we got to? Okay, well, it starts there with Luis Severino saying, you know what? I want to wear the City Connect jerseys today. The Mets are going to be wearing the City Connects more than just on Saturdays that we discussed in our pregame show today. Make sure you guys chime into our weekly pregame coverage. We'll be a live pregame tomorrow, an hour or two before the show, before the game, the same way that we will likely be live on Wednesday with an awesome, very awesome, exciting fellow host that's going to be hosting Wednesday's show for me that you guys will be on the lookout for soon. But outside of that, what we discussed was, again, the Mets really like the City Connect jerseys, so they're going to rep them more than maybe they were initially planning on. And Severino wanted to rep them today, and that was the best thing he could ask for because he absolutely dealed in this. But now the Mets are 0-2 with these jerseys on, and I don't consider them bad luck just yet, but man, oh man, is it frustrating to say the least. And Sevy did all he could. He did all you could ask for in a start like this, folks. Literally, let's just hop right to the pitching stats. Let's go right there. Luis Severino was magical. 8 innings of 1 hit, 1 earned run ball, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 2.31 ERA, everybody. And after we saw Severino with a 1-2-3 first, striking out 2. We saw Brennan Nimmo again with the leadoff home run, JDM with a single there, but nothing would happen with either side for a good portion of the game there afterwards. So as we look at Luis Severino as a whole today, again, where he finally gave up some runs is that we saw there going on into the 8th inning where Bush gets on with a walk, Swanson with a broken bat single breaks up the no-no bid, Madrigal with an RBI fielder's choice because Joey Wendell decides to try for a double play instead of getting the clear out at home. For whatever reason, Wendell thought it would be a better idea to try to pull out a double play to get out of the inning unscathed versus just having the immediate throw to home that he had in time to get the tying runner out. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't. Joey Wendell yet made another head-scratching defensive play. It's almost like we shouldn't have this guy on the roster anymore, considering he doesn't provide even the minimum of what you're asking, which is defensive upside and utility. He doesn't even do that at a quality rate for the Mets with the way that he's been playing. I would love David Stearns to give him the axe the way that he has done with others, because truthfully, why do we need Joey Wendell on this team? This is not a slap-hitting MLB anymore, which is why Jeff McNeil's game is going to continue to be frustrating, and it's probably going to get worse before it even gets better again. And that's why I don't see things looking too bright in McNeil's future in the organization. Joey Wendell's a Walmart version of that, folks. What are we doing here? I'm done. Can we fucking stop with the Joey Wendell nonsense, okay? I want nothing to do with him the same way I want nothing to do with Adrian Hauser for the time being, especially Joey Wendell, though. This is yet another game, another example where Joey Wendell comes in as a defensive replacement instead of Mark Vientos, who looked beyond fine at third base today. Marky V had one play where he a little overthrew to Alonso on the run, but outside of that, it was completely competent at third base. And I'm going to go on a limb and say Mark Vientos probably throws to home in that situation. Now, could the pressure get to him? Could he have a throwing error? Very well, it's possible. Again, he's a rookie who just called, not a rookie, but he just got called up. You know, he's still trying to get himself acclimated at the MLB level, but still, Mark Vientos looked far from terrible defensively today. So let's bring in Joey Wendell later on the ball game when you know it's a tight ball game, so you lose the bat as well. Frustrating decision making. I'm sorry. I can understand the thought process behind Carlos Mendoza making said decision, but it doesn't mean it justifies it really. Because truthfully, again, with the way that Mark Vientos was playing, why? Why are we doing this? I do not understand. So that's a big frustration for me. But Luis Severino, to break down a bit more about his day-to-day, folks, I want to give a big shout-out to now a contributor on the WardyNYM channel, my good friend Isaac. He is a fantastic young Mets fan that is beautiful with his write-ups that you guys can check on social media too. Actually, let me make sure I shout my man at Isaac Rothman. Isaac is going to be helping out the channel as well and sharing further reports on the pitching analysis, aside from what you're seeing necessarily with just the eye test. And today, as we look at furthermore what we got from Luis Severino, who again gave you eight innings of 1 hit, 1 earned run ball, 2 walks, 5 Ks, fantastic on 101 pitches, a 2.31 ERA, one of the best ERAs in all Major League Baseball at the moment, especially out of the National League. Very fastball heavy today that we saw there with Luis Severino, but he looked fantastic both with the sinker and the four seam, but a bit more on the four seam there, and he was working his counts. For him to get first pitch strikes even with the changeup, you knew he had something cooking early. Again, the four seam was looking great with the vertical movement. He was able to get strikes, of course, by filling out the zone with the fastball. That was a heavy emphasis that he had in his arsenal today to work that heater to his advantage. That sat 96 all the way until he was out of the game today. That's another thing I love about Severino. The velo doesn't really drastically dip with him whatsoever. He stays consistent. If he lessens a bit on the velo, he knows he has in his back pocket to showcase whenever he wants. And he was really able to put the fastball and sinker outside the zone when he pardon me, folks, wanted soft contact, which was huge. He induced the soft contact, of course. The strikeouts didn't have an alarming strikeout rate. Had 5 Ks, though. Beautiful Ks in doing so. Some of them were on that nasty sweeper as well. And that sweeper today was his main K pitch, and the velo and spin were up significantly there that you guys can check there in Baseball Savant. He did a fantastic job with the gyro slider and cutter to set up the sweeper beforehand as well. And then you look overall, a very impressive outing as he utilized the changeup to get the strikeouts, something that doesn't happen too often. And then when you look at, again, the pitch he gave up, the pitch he gave up the first hit on was pretty weird. It was, it was threw 2 fastballs to get to the 0-2 count, and instead of an outside sweeper, he threw another fastball. Odd pitch choice, but again, it was a little bizarre there that unfortunately led to the first hit. And of course, even that first hit, while it was odd, was a broken bat single by Dansby Swanson, so it wasn't clean overall either. Just a fantastic, again, overall outing from Luis Severino, who continues to thrive and get better with each passing start. Overall grade I would give him today, and my buddy Isaac has a grade for him as well. We both agree he has him at an A. I got to give Luis Severino an A+ out of an outing like this. I mean, I feel like if you want to go S tier would be if, of course, you get a no-hitter, but A+ range I think is very fair with Luis Severino. Sevy was a dog. Maybe if you want to give the A, considering he did allow a run, but that run being charged on him when it was a Joey Wendell fielder choice situation is very frustrating. That's one of those things where you wish that run could be taken away and off, considering it's not like Sevy had the chance to make that decision himself there, because I can promise you, if Severino was in the position that Wendell was there, a little bit more to third base, playing that, he's throwing home naturally to try to save the run immediately. But I digress, and of course that fell short because they fell short of getting that double play. And then Edwin Diaz that we saw there, folks, as we mentioned, Edwin, of course, he would give up a walk that we would see there in the 9th inning. You know, after a 3-pitch strikeout, he walks Talkman, which was a frustrating little at-bat there. Happ with a 3-pitch strikeout as well. And then Morel rips the 2-run home run to win it, ultimately, for the Cubs in this one, to give them the game-winning home run. But what stood out was the pitch or so before, 2 pitches prior, Edwin Diaz throws a fastball completely in the zone, up in the zone, but completely in the zone. So let's say this is the box. Here's the fastball. This is outside the box. Here's the fucking fastball. You want to know what it was called? A ball. That squeezed Edwin so bad, and unfortunately, that's what led to the 3-1 pitch that was right down the pipe that he absolutely dicked down that thing and got a two-run bomb. And yes, you heard that correctly. Christopher Morel, who again hasn't been off to a great start this season. All it takes is a series against the Mets for him to get that home run. And for Edwin Diaz, that's the first time since the 2021 season that Edwin Diaz has given up a home run with at least one runner on base. Yes, you heard that correctly. Absolutely insane numbers. That's how good Edwin has been. Again, the velo was up. You know, he threw his hardest pitch of the year at 99.3 miles per hour. So for people wondering, does Edwin have the velocity? Is it an issue? It's not an issue. And again, the velo was up today after the man quite literally just pitched. So just to show you that Edwin, again, perfectly fine. His mechanics are looking more fluid with each day, of course. And yes, he did throw that meatball right down the dick. But outside of that, this stuff wasn't a problem whatsoever. The slider velo was up. Everything looked good. You know, he hunted a bit to Talkman, of course, and that led to a walk. And of course, he had that meatball that we saw there to Morel. But Edwin Diaz doesn't look bad by any stretch whatsoever. He just hung one. And that, unfortunately, is a difference maker when this Mets team just decides that they're not going to score whatsoever. And that's a bigger problem that this Mets team has at the moment. When they're getting pitching now, they're not even getting offense on a consistent basis. We shouldn't have to be reliant on heroic walk-off home runs night to night for this Mets team to get where they want to be. But right now, that's kind of where they're finding themselves in, especially at home. So, a couple things I'd like to share. I've been very impressed with a lot of the managing that Carlos Mendoza has done this season. However, I do not agree with him on his decision-making with Joey Wendell later on in the ball game. Not only because of the fact of the status of the game. Yes, I can see maybe wanting to make sure that you have the best defense for Luis Severino here, but my bigger gripe and bigger problem, folks, apologies for the intro running for 2 seconds. My bigger gripe is Joey Wendell has done little to prove all season long that he is a much superior defensive option. And Vientos, if you're going to give the kid a start at third base, you might as well let him play and get, more than, say, a couple at-bats. I mean, just some food for thought. Maybe I'm in the minority here, and maybe there's a further emphasis here naturally because, again, Joey Wendell won in hand with the Mets losing this ball game today, but there's still something to be said about having a utility man off the bench that is so unreliable, essentially puts the Mets in a position to lose today where it starts. And yes, the bigger problem is 100% on the offense. There's no one to blame more than the Mets offense today. It starts with the core group and Mr. Francisco Lindor. Pete Alonso. It doesn't start with WardyNYM, but everyone else and their mother on the offensive end, it 100% falls on them. But when we get into this being a tight pitcher's duel type ball game where both teams aren't hitting, this is where you need your pitching to be an X factor, and you need your defense to be at its best. And the defense ultimately cost the Mets in this one, as we alluded to already. And as you look at the Mets offense here, everybody, it is as follows, folks. It's not pretty. It certainly is not that right now. Brandon Nimmo, let's see here. I mean, again, he was one of the lone bright spots today. He certainly needed that, who entered tonight's game with around a 680 OPS on the season. Vientos needs to play over Beatty and Wendell. I mean, Vientos is going to continue to get reps. Starling Marte will be back tomorrow from the bereavement list, but Vientos will more than likely be staying on the roster. Thank you so much for the donation, BG the Kid. I appreciate that a lot. Appreciate everyone for chiming in live on a replay. Happy to have you all in here. Mets suck with runners in scoring position. They have been absolutely brutal with runners in scoring position, but just the offense as a whole, guys, not getting the job done today at all. Look at all those donuts. JD Martinez with a hit in his first at-bat. McNeil had himself a nice single, but Jeff got on base twice today, so you can't nitpick him too much, but I hate Jeff batting fifth. I just don't see how it benefits us. I mean, it's not like it made much of a difference today, but DJ Stewart today, for example, it's one of those things. DJ comes in to pinch hit. He's on a 2-0 count, right? To pinch hit for Tyrone Taylor. And then it goes to full count and he strikes out there, right? At least was on the 2-2. And that was a pitch I would have loved to hit. Hector Neris, again, looked vulnerable. We all know Hector Neris very well during his time with the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets have beat up on him plenty. It looks like that they were planning to do exactly that again. Unfortunately, weren't able to do that there in the ninth as he gets the save. And ultimately, the Cubs get themselves the victory. Let's see here as I'm checking up with everybody in the chat right now. Just seeing where everyone's at right now regarding this Mets loss and our frustration level. On a scale of 1 to 10, how frustrated are you after a loss like this, everybody? Let me know. On a scale of 1 to 10, greatly appreciated. And before we get on further on the ball game, folks, to break it all down and really share our further reactions, I do want to share with you all our amazing sponsor on the channel at SoRare MLB, because we're doing an awesome promo this week for your chance to win Mets tickets to any game that you want to go to this regular season. And if you want to know a little bit more on that, make sure you guys are locked in and listening to the following here with our great friends again That's so rare. MLB. And again, guys, today, what I told you from yesterday's show, we're going to be drafting our team today. So again, if you guys and gals do not know, I don't know why the graphic is the way it is right now, where it's kind of outlined like that. That looks silly, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're going to draft our team together. So in case you guys don't know what So Rare MLB is, So Rare MLB is the best MLB fantasy game out there. You can buy, sell, trade, and collect cards that are unique to you that you can then utilize and say you would MLB The Show, for example, to build your own squad, be your own GM, play in weekly tournaments, have a chance to win cash prizes, Mets ticket prizes, and a bunch of other stuff by playing said game and just having an absolute blast in doing so. You build your team, you build your collections, you can collect all Mets cards for a chance to, of course, then opt into different giveaways and promos we'll be having on the channel later on this season with So Rare MLB and what happened on that front. But in simple terms, what we were going to do is just draft our team together, select our players, and then set up to enter a tournament. So it's very simple going and very easy to break down. I've done it plenty in the past, and I will on our next show. Just unfortunately will not be tonight, so my apologies on that one, folks. But again, the same thing applies regarding the ticket giveaway. So again, just make sure you guys do the simple steps of signing up to So Rare MLB by clicking the link down below, and of course entering a weekly tournament there, a common tournament with the team that you build. It's that simple to enter, and then you will have a chance to be selected, and the winners will be announced May 6th that I will have for you all here on the WardyNYM YouTube channel. Apologies about that, though. I don't know why I was having a hiccup on that end. Maybe it was something that I did. I'm honestly not entirely sure. Greg, thank you so much for the $20 donation. I really appreciate that. Greg says, early in September of 2022, we were outscored 22-4 in 3 consecutive games with the Nationals and the Pirates. Then the Cubs come to New York and sweep us. Then the Braves sweep and quick exit from playoffs. Never been the same since. They haven't. They haven't. When it comes to a consistency basis, the Mets have not been the same in quite a long time. But I think we also need to realize that this Mets team is never going to be like the 2022 Mets again. Like, that is not a sustainable formula for success. I think that's another bigger part of the problem. It is not a sustainable form of success for a slap-hitting Mets team to have, consistent success after that 2022 run that they did. So I don't think we should look and really say, okay, the Mets haven't been the same since. In that sense, they're never going to be the same. The Mets that we are going to be rooting for and the Mets that are going to have success are not going to be the same squad that we have been used to in years past. And that is why you are going to see some things change to different aspects and different parts of this team, of course. But yeah, it's an interesting one to evaluate what the struggles the Mets have had since, again, the latter half there in 2022. It's 100% true. But on the consistency basis, that has been a bigger issue, where in 2022, we were fed this anomaly in comparison to the past 5+ years of play, where you got a multiple stretch, let's talk 3-4+ month stretch of playing fantastic baseball and looking like that you're actually going to be a mainstay at the top of your division and everything's going right. Like, it was awesome when it was happening, but it was short-lived, and it's not something that us fans should look at and say, okay, this is going to be a very reoccurring thing. This is something that's sustainable, because it's anything but, unfortunately. Let's see. What if you already have an account? Chris, if you already have an account, you should be fine to still enter. That's a good question, though. So if you already have an account for So Rare MLB, I would suggest maybe trying to sign up through some, if you have a girlfriend or a wife, maybe, to do it that way. If you already have an account, I'm not exactly sure, because I need to make sure that they can track that when people click the link to sign up to then enter. So if you click the link and then you log in through there, I think you'd be fine. So you can give that a go, and that should give you the chance to enter as well. But good question. Thank you for asking. Let's see here. Just seeing what you guys are saying in the chat right now, making sure I didn't miss anything either from earlier. Don't believe I did. Wardy, you may need to pace yourself. I believe it's going to be, trust me, we all know it's going to be a very long season. We all know. We all know on that front, it's going to be a long season for the Mets here. But the biggest takeaways for me, folks, and of course, we didn't even talk about it yet. Kodai Senga looked apparently nasty in his little stint against, granted, it was Brooklyn A Cyclones today at Citi Field, but Kodai Senga continues to inch back and is very excited to be in this Mets rotation, to be the front man, to be our ace, and he's looking to return right after he is available around May 27th. So I'd imagine sometime in, early first week of June is when we should have Kodai Senga in this rotation. Same applies with David Pearson on impacting this Mets team in some way, shape, or form. Sevy got a ton of calls. Say, Wardy, cry me a river. No. Like the calls that Sevy got today went more in hand with Nito's brilliant frame jobs than anything else. I'm sorry, but if you're the call to Edwin Diaz will never be justified in my opinion, and that's separate from Sevy too. So, look, Sevy could have had some borderline calls today, yes, but there was nothing more blatant than that fastball call that was called a ball to Edwin Diaz. Find me one call that was more blatant than that today. I promise you, you will not. And that's a frustrating one. And that's one of those things where between that call, of course, Joey Wendell being anything but a positive influence on the club, defensively too, and the offense is not doing anything you're looking for, that's how the Mets find themselves in the blunder that they did. But folks, maybe we are going to have some success, or maybe, again, we can take a look at least on how we did on the betting front today, if we had any luck whatsoever, because we did do a 2 and then a 4-pick parlay today in our pregame segment, and I want to make sure that I have it properly put up for you all here. So I started today with the Phillies having the money line over that being in the Halos there in the Angels, and I also had in that mix, there was one other that I'm blanking on at the moment, so let me make sure I find it. In 1 second, folks. If we take a look, it was the Reds money line. Okay, so now let's take a look on how those are doing with our amazing sponsors always at BetUS, everybody, as you guys and gals can see together. And yes, we see currently I had the Phillies as well. The Phillies at the moment are the heavy favorite already against the Dodgers because I'm assuming it goes in hand with the score of the game. Yep, they're up 3-1, so that would make sense. If we take a look at, I have the Mariners run line tonight against the Braves. So far looking so good. Reds, I have the Reds money line. They're tied with the Padres 1-1. Ellie De La Cruz is making an impact. And I did have the Yankees run line today with the Orioles, and I do believe that might have just missed or just hit. I get them confused sometimes because I had the run line today, and that was at for the Yanks to either win outright or to make sure that they don't lose by any more than 1.5 runs. And they lost by 2 runs today. They lost 2-0 to Gunnar Henderson and the Baltimore Orioles. I knew that game was going to be close, and that ended up being exactly that. But I should have, looking back, hammered the Baltimore Orioles run line there of at least 2 runs scored and the victory. That would have been the bet to place here. But as we take a look at any other remaining games going on, or just take a quick jump to tomorrow, everybody, we got the Mets versus the Cubs here. Mets are again a money line favorite like they were tonight, which I do not agree with whatsoever right now. There's really nothing to justify. I don't know why the Mets are getting these heavy odds. Truthfully, it surprised me quite a bit. And that is something that I would stay away from, just the bias alone here. But the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees, I love my O's so much, but that's going to be another big matchup. And part of me wants to tail and do, again, a run line tomorrow for the Yanks and hope for a better outcome than today. But between the Red Sox and the Giants, we got the Phillies and the Los Angeles Angels again. Braves, I mean, I might double up on the Phillies too. I really, really like the Phillies in this matchup. So, you know what? Let's do exactly that. Let's hammer. Let's go Phillies, and let's go Phillies run line at plus 115. That's the bet, and that's going to be a pick of the day that I discuss in tomorrow's pregame segment, and we will put 15 down to win 17-25 there. So to everyone that bets, make sure you guys bet responsibly. Click the link down below. That way you too get 125% bonus with your first 3 deposits for all your sports betting needs, and make sure you guys are using BetUS as always. Thank you all so much in advance for the endless support there, folks. But guys, there isn't a whole lot more that I have to say about this. This was a blunder offensively by the Metropolitans. There are not many positives to take away from it, unfortunately. Another anemic offensive outing for the club. And now it really just comes down to, when are they going to find consistency in their game? When are they going to put themselves in a position where we can be like, okay, yes, the Mets are rolling the way that they were for that 12-3 stretch, right? We missed that already. This club feels like it's a shell of them, even after their walk-off heroics yesterday. Like, if there's one positive about yesterday, it's at least the walk-off heroics proved that the Mets don't just roll over and die. And that's true, the Mets don't roll over and die. They truly, more often than not, even when they're losing, as they head into the 8th and the 9th inning, are getting guys on base, are being productive, but the problem is that they haven't been as productive as they were. Instead of them getting those clutch hits and truly rallying, they're falling short that we're seeing, you know, especially against a Hector Neris that this Mets team knows very, very well. You know, it's one of those things that you'd hope that they'd have more damage on than what they did throughout not only the game against the Cubs and Jameson Taillon, but especially Hector Neris, who, while I understand it was a much different Mets team last time Neris was in Philly in the NL East, it doesn't change the fact that this is a guy that the Mets have had his number on a lot of the time. You know, even when Neris and the changes he's made during his time in the Houston Astros, that's a spot where you'd hope the Mets would have been able to pounce more than what they did. Unfortunately, they couldn't, and they ultimately lose again by a final score of 3-1. Let's see, making excuses for the players. Just wrap up the show and say the Mets blew it tonight. Good night, everyone. Pete, have a fantastic night, my friend. But no, we're actually going to open the door now to any comments, questions, and concerns you guys and gals got for me from today's outing. As again, the Mets lose by a final score of 3-1 and a 4-game set here against the Chicago Cubs. Let me know all your thoughts here, folks. And again, I hope tomorrow we have an exciting victory to break down. But tonight, it's more of the Blues. Tonight is one of those nights, too, where with the way the Mets are playing, I can't even justify trying to go out of my way to be a full-on ranty, to be, really hot-headed and stuff like that. It's truly only justified when you go on, like, significant losing streaks where it's like once you get to 3-4 plus games, it's like, how are you not doing anything on the offensive end, or the pitching is such a massive problem and it's not being addressed. I do see here, though, what do you think of this core and how inconsistent it is? I think the core is a problem, if I'm being frank. I think the core is definitely a problem. I think David Stearns is going to learn. I think us Mets fans are going to learn more and more why it's okay to be open to this core group being broken up by the season's end. Even if Pete Alonso balls out the way we know Pete can, JD Martinez in the interim too, who I'm already saying sign an extension with, because I just think JDM is just such a phenomenal, timeless hitter that's going to do wonders for this Mets lineup throughout the course of the season. But between Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, I wouldn't be overly shocked if 2 of those 4 players weren't on the roster next year. I expect one of those 4 to be off the roster next year. Let me put it that way. I've heard through the tea leaves why there's an understanding as to it. You should expect one of those 4 gone next year. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be Francisco Lindor. So that can narrow it down for you a little bit. But yeah, I think this core group is definitely going to be in for a shakeup. Here's what I will say, because we're very short-term, interim with our reactions as fans. I don't want to change the fact that, of course, if McNeil really starts to get on a roll and be the McNeil of old, then yes, of course, that's a great position to be in for the Mets to have a hitter like him when he's at his best. But truthfully, and again, this is the bigger problem with Jeff, even when he's at his best, how much of an impact he's really making for this team. He's great defensively, can play second, can play the corner, but the versatility isn't as needed on the defensive end now with the roster configuration. And the Mets just desperately need offensive guys that can get on bases at great clips. And the problem with Jeff is, again, Jeff got on base twice today, which was nice to see. But the problem with Jeff is he just finds himself in blunders a lot, where instead of having his usual 2 or 3 hit games, or, say if he's not hitting, at least he's getting a couple walks, it just lackadaisical at bats and just not looking like the guy that you're hoping to see. So, let that be maybe the answer you were looking for in certain regards to the core group. But as a whole, yes, there are problems with the core group, the lack of consistency. The Mets are beyond aware of it, and no one should be surprised if it is addressed by the season's end, if not sooner. Even if, again, a lot of things go right for the Mets this year, they are buyers at the deadline, and they do, in fact, reach playoffs or just find themselves on the outside looking in. Mets are going to be in the hunt. They're going to be in that mix all year long, but how much do they come together as a team? 1, and 2, how does everything shape up out of the course of the 162? Can this bullpen carry them as long as it's been? Is that sustainable for this team right now? They have the pieces, they have the talent to say, yes, that can happen, but rotation-wise, how long can they stay afloat? They have the depth, but they do miss a lack of quality there. Or is this just the start of more brilliance from Jose Quintana, Luis Severino? Is Jose Buto going to bounce back the way that we hope and expect that he should? Can Adrian Hauser be any type of positive production for you for a guy that, in my opinion, shouldn't be in this rotation, but according to David Stearns right now, is going to stay put for the time being? A lot of questions arise for the team, and of course, the anemic offense that has been the biggest problem of all. But I think as we go throughout the course of the 162, we're going to naturally find out all those answers. And I'm just excited and very interested more than anything to see how the club looks when they are firing on all full cylinders, when they have Kodai Senga healthy, when they have Francisco Alvarez back in this lineup, being the man to catch Kodai Senga for that matter. When you have all these things pieced up together, and in line the way you want them to, then that's going to be the best way and most proper way to evaluate the team. And naturally, you need the guys to be healthy. And we know the Mets, anything can happen. But you got to hope that they can be healthy and be in unison when you need them to be. Thankfully, though, it's April 29th. The Mets still have a chance to end the month with a above 500 record. They currently sit 14-14 on the season, and they look again to get back to above 500 tomorrow against the Chicago Cubs in Game 2 of a 4-game set. So that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button on your way out, and continue to let me know your thoughts down below in the comments for people on replay. What was your biggest takeaway from tonight's 3-1 loss against the Chicago Cubs? What was most frustrating to you? What was the biggest highlight if it wasn't the obvious Luis Severino? Whatever your thoughts, drop them down below. Thank you all so much again for watching, and be on the lookout for coverage again tomorrow. So until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. This is your boy Wardy, signing out.